What if time isn't what you think it is? What if your experience of past, present, and future isn't fixed, but fluid, shaped not by the ticking of a clock, but by something happening inside your brain? Because here's the truth. Your brain is a time machine, and your brain waves are the keys to bending it. We're taught to believe that time is linear, one direction, past behind you, future ahead. But that's not how your mind experiences it. Time speeds up when you're in flow. It slows down in danger. It stretches during dreams. It collapses when you meditate deeply. That's not imagination. That's neurology. Your brain doesn't perceive time. It constructs it, based on rhythm, based on frequency, based on waves. And there's one fact most people don't know. Every state of consciousness is connected to a specific brainwave frequency, and each frequency bends your experience of time. When you're in high beta, anxious, scattered, overstimulated, time feels frantic, rushed. You're always behind. But drop into alpha, theta, or even delta, and suddenly, space expands, thoughts slow, time opens. This isn't mystical metaphor, it's measurable science. And here's the twist. You're not stuck in one frequency. You can train your brain to shift on command, and when you do, time stops controlling you. You start shaping it. Your brain is constantly oscillating, producing electrical patterns known as brainwaves. These aren't random. They're signatures of consciousness, and each wave state affects your perception of reality in ways far more profound than most people realize. Let's break it down. At the highest frequencies, you've got gamma, the realm of heightened awareness, insight, and expanded cognition. Time doesn't just slow here, it disappears. This is the brainwave state observed during deep meditation, mystical experiences, and moments of oneness where the boundary between self and space collapses. Below that is beta, the normal waking state. But there's a catch. High beta, where most people live, is chaotic, overthinking, overanalyzing, drenched in cortisol. In this state, time feels linear, tight, and stressful. You feel like you're running out of time, even when you're not. Then there's alpha, the bridge, relaxed but alert, the state between thinking and dreaming. This is where creativity lives, where daydreams drift and time becomes elastic. Minutes stretch, hours dissolve. This is the doorway. Theta goes deeper. This is the frequency of deep meditation, hypnosis, and REM sleep, the dream realm. In theta, your conscious mind steps aside and your subconscious opens. Time loses meaning entirely. You can relive a memory in seconds, or experience a lifetime in a dream that lasts a minute. And finally, delta, the slowest wave. Deep, dreamless sleep. Pure restoration. But here's the mystery. In delta, some traditions believe you tap into non-local awareness, timeless awareness, not just unconsciousness, but connection, beyond time, beyond ego. Now here's where it gets wild. You're not stuck in any of these. Your brain moves through them all. But with training, breath, sound, meditation, you can learn to choose the state. And when you do, you don't just change how you think. You change how you exist in time. Let's get one thing straight. The distortion of time isn't some science fiction fantasy. It's a direct reflection of your brain's rhythm syncing or unsyncing with your environment. Have you ever been so deep in a task that hours passed like minutes, or sat in a waiting room for 5 minutes that felt like an hour? That's not perception, that's resonance. Your brainwave state literally modulates your experience of time. In flow states, often associated with high alpha and low gamma activity, your prefrontal cortex quiets down. That's the part of the brain responsible for linear thinking and time tracking. When it fades into the background, something magical happens. You enter the timeless now. Athletes call it the zone. Artists call it creative trance. Mystics call it presence. This is how time bends. But you don't need to be a monk or a master to reach these states. The tools have always been available, and the ancients knew it. In Sufi spinning, theta waves dominate. In Gregorian chants and Tibetan overtone singing, brainwaves shift in both the singer and the listener. Breathwork traditions like pranayama and holotropic breathing can push the brain into high gamma or deep delta states on command. They weren't just spiritual practices, they were technologies of consciousness. Even drumming patterns used by shamans across cultures were rhythmic for a reason, to entrain the brain, to guide it into different wave states and shift perception. When the rhythm hits a steady beat, especially around 4 to 8 hertz, it matches theta frequency, and the listener's brain starts to synchronize. That's not metaphor. That's measurable. So when you ask, can I distort time with brainwaves? The answer is, you already do. The only difference is whether you're doing it unconsciously or intentionally, and once you learn to do it with intention, time stops being a prison and starts becoming a tool. Most people live trapped in beta, not because it's natural, but because it's engineered. Everything in modern life is designed to keep you locked in a high beta state. Social media notifications, breaking news, endless deadlines, blue light, noise, constant stimulation. It keeps your nervous system in a loop of mild anxiety and distraction. And when your brain is trapped in beta, something critical happens. You lose your access to time distortion. You lose your flexibility, your creativity, your access to the field of intuition, insight, and non-linear awareness that comes through alpha, theta, and gamma. You get stuck in the illusion of urgency, stuck in the ticking clock version of life, stuck in survival mode. But here's the breakthrough. You don't need to escape your life to break this loop. You just need to interrupt the signal, and that begins with awareness. The moment you recognize you're spinning in high beta noise, you can shift. Even something as simple as closing your eyes and taking 3 deep breaths slows the brain's rhythm. The mind starts to soften, the field begins to open. The power isn't in complexity, it's in consistency. Start your day with 5 minutes of slow breathing or binaural beats. Let your brain relearn what alpha feels like. Play isochronic tones tuned to theta before sleep. Use guided visualizations that walk you down into deep states. You're not relaxing, you're reprogramming. And here's where it gets even more real. When you operate from alpha or theta more often, your perception of time begins to fragment in beautiful ways. You can stretch moments of insight. You can compress tedious hours. You begin to design your days not by the clock, but by your state. Because productivity isn't about hustle, it's about rhythm. Flow isn't a fluke, it's frequency. And time? Time is the echo of the signal you're tuned to. If you've ever felt time bend around your awareness, subscribe and hit the bell. You're not imagining it, you're tuning into something real. Once you understand that time is shaped by your brainwaves, you stop trying to manage it like a resource and start directing it like a current. And here's where things get even more powerful. Time distortion isn't just about focus or performance. It's deeply tied to memory, intuition, and even manifestation. Let's start with memory. Your brain doesn't store time like a calendar. It stores states. When something happens in a heightened brainwave state, like extreme joy, trauma, fear, or awe, it gets etched deeper. That's why you remember intense moments so vividly. They were encoded with a different frequency. Now imagine being able to intentionally enter those high-access states, not just to store memories, but to retrieve them. Ancient shamans and monks would use deep theta to re-enter past experiences, not just to reflect, but to relive and even reshape their impact. This is the foundation of deep healing. You don't need to time travel, you need to shift the frequency of your access point. Next, intuition. When you're in beta, intuition is silent, drowned in noise, but drop into alpha or theta, and suddenly, ideas come from nowhere. Answers emerge. You just know things. That's not magic. That's your field becoming receptive. Nonlinear insight flows in through low-frequency gates. And finally, manifestation. This is the one they don't talk about in brain science, but mystics have whispered for centuries. When your field enters deep coherence and you hold an intention while in a low brainwave state, it imprints the field. Thought isn't enough. Emotion alone doesn't do it. But when intention, emotion, and frequency align, you create resonance with a timeline that matches. That's how realities bend. You're not just manifesting through willpower. You're syncing with a version of time where what you desire already exists. And from there, it starts to pull toward you, not because you forced it, but because your signal matched. This is why time bends for the masters, not because they control it, but because they align with it. Let's push deeper into something most never realize. Time distortion isn't just personal, it's collective. The dominant brainwave patterns of a population can shape the tempo of culture. When societies are locked in high beta, overstimulated, anxious, addicted to dopamine hits, everything speeds up. Trends die in days. Conversations fragment. Depth disappears, and a shared sense of presence evaporates. That's not accidental, it's engineered. Modern tech is a beta amplifier. Scroll loops, notification pings, rapid cut video editing, all of it designed to fragment your attention, keep you reactive, and drown your brain in high-frequency static. The result? You lose access to time spaciousness. You feel rushed, behind, and burned out. even when there's no crisis. And the fix isn't time management, it's wave management. If your inner frequency is off, no calendar system can save you. Now imagine the opposite. What would happen if more people slowed their brainwaves together? If whole communities dropped into alpha or theta, even for a few minutes daily? This isn't a dream, it's been measured. When groups meditate together, even remotely, crime rates drop, heart rate variability sinks, emotional regulation increases, coherence spreads. Because the field doesn't belong to one person, it's shared. This is time as a resonance web, and in this web, your brain isn't isolated. It's a node, a sender and receiver. So when your rhythm stabilizes, others entrain to it. You don't need to convince anyone, you just need to tune yourself. That's why the deepest transformation isn't loud, it's vibrational. You can shift a room without a word, shift a timeline without effort. You don't force change, you radiate it. And time responds. Because time doesn't follow clocks, it follows fields. And as you stabilize your frequency, time bends not to your ego, but to your coherence. Now let's talk about dreams. Because if there's any place where time proves it isn't linear, it's in the dream space. You've had it happen. A dream that feels like it lasted an hour, only to wake up and realize you were asleep for 5 minutes. Or a dream where you skipped across decades, saw yourself in multiple lives, or watched time loop like a spiral. This isn't fantasy, it's your brain operating in theta and delta outside of ordinary time. In these states, the conscious mind, obsessed with sequencing, with categories, with narrative, goes quiet. The deeper intelligence of the field takes over, and suddenly time becomes symbolic, fluid, responsive. Many ancient cultures didn't see dreams as subconscious noise. They saw them as training grounds. The Aboriginal dream time, the Egyptian duat, the Tibetan dream yoga. These were not just metaphors for insight. They were literal realms where time broke apart and deeper truths emerged. Here's what most people don't realize. The state you're in when dreaming isn't exclusive to sleep. With practice, you can dip into those same brainwave frequencies while awake. And when you do, the rules change. Visualization becomes more vivid. Time stretches. Your ability to imprint the field increases. This is where true inner rewiring happens, not by reciting affirmations, but by feeling them in a state of altered rhythm. The brain becomes a bridge, not a prison. And here's the kicker. The more time you spend in altered wave states, the more your waking life begins to warp in response. Hours don't feel the same. People move slower or faster. Events unfold as if scripted. You predict things or even feel outside of time completely, watching yourself act before thought catches up. That's not illusion. That's what happens when your signal stops syncing with the collective clock and starts syncing with the deeper pattern, the one behind time. There's something profound that happens when you stop chasing time and start mastering your rhythm. You move into timeless influence. What does that mean? It means people feel your presence more than they hear your words. It means events start unfolding in synchronicity with your state, not your schedule. It means you stop hustling for alignment and start radiating it. This is the level where mystics, artists, athletes, and visionaries operate. Not by accident, but by entrainment. They've trained their nervous systems to remain in coherence even as the world spins chaotically around them. And the deeper truth, you don't reach this by adding more hacks, more tools, more effort. You reach it by removing interference. That's the secret no one tells you. Time clarity comes from signal clarity. Your field is constantly communicating with the universe. And the cleaner the signal, the faster the response. You speak a desire in high beta, it ricochets off confusion. You whisper an intention in theta, it resonates like a tuning fork through the matrix. This is why spiritual masters value stillness, silence, surrender, not as dogma, but as frequency calibration. Because in stillness, the field responds instantly. In silence, insight floods in. And in surrender, time stops pushing back. You become unhurried. Not slow, but so present that even 5 minutes feels eternal. You make sharper choices. You speak less, but with more weight. You become the calm in the center of the storm, not because you forced it, but because you matched its opposite. And the irony? As you stop fighting time, time bends toward you. It makes space for you. It expands around your clarity. It listens. Because time was never meant to dominate you. It was meant to dance with you. So here you are, standing at the edge of a truth most people never glimpse. Time isn't fixed. It's flexible, and it responds to your frequency. Every rush you've ever felt, every delay, every perfect timing moment, none of it was random. It was a reflection of your state. The future doesn't happen to you. You meet it, based on the signal you carry. And when that signal is fractured, time fragments with it. But when you're coherent, time opens. You don't just experience more, you experience differently. Moments expand, insights accelerate. You stop counting hours and start inhabiting them. And that's what they never wanted you to know. Because once you understand that brainwaves shape reality, you become ungovernable by the clock. No longer trapped in someone else's calendar, no longer rushing to meet expectations that were never yours. You become timeless, not immortal, not detached, but present, so deeply attuned to your inner rhythm that external pressure has nothing to latch onto. You don't run out of time, you sync with it, and that synchronization reshapes everything. So the real question isn't, how do I get more time? The real question is, what state do I need to be in for time to expand for me? Because the answer was never in the calendar, it was always in your brain, in your breath, in your field. Now it's your turn. Drop into the comments and tell me, have you ever had a moment where time completely shifted, where everything slowed down or sped up for no reason? I want to hear your story, because you're not imagining it. You're not alone. You're waking up to the signal behind the clock, and that changes everything.